So you're new to Grayzone, maybe even feeling a bit overwhelmed, and you need to be ready. You've found the right video. I'm going to go through a ton of tips to get you started. Maybe you're even thinking about just getting the game after watching my last video talking about what this game is fully about, breaking down most of the things about this game and my impressions after playing for a week of it. Don't worry, you're in the right place. Just make sure you're subscribed, and let's get into it. Number one, you can put task items into your secure container so that if you die, you will still keep it. Not sure if they're going to remove this, but of course, every time you die, you drop all of your gear except for what is in this container. If you got the higher end edition of the game, then you'll also instantly unlock the TAS. I didn't even put this on for my first 5 hours. This will give that save pouch even more room. Two, there are amazing mission guides already on YouTube. Some people prefer to figure everything out themselves, and I do think that is a good way to approach it, but also don't get stuck on something for 3 hours just because you can't find it. You'll find some awesome creators doing this as well. Three, you can scroll through your medical wheel if a medical item is in your belt, pockets, or tack rig. It doesn't work if it's in your bag. Hold H and scroll wheel to select what you need. Light bleeds will actually heal themselves over time, but medium bleeds need to be bandaged. If you have especially a lot of severe bleeding, you can use a tourniquet to quickly stop everything, although I really haven't used that much, as you'll still need to bandage after as well. If your bones are ever orange or red, you need to use a splint. And if your organs like brain, lungs, stomach are red, you need to use a survival kit or serve kit. Also, make sure your blood is high enough, but if you're hurting anyway, when in doubt, serve it out. Four, to discover LZs, you just need to walk over them. You can also ride with somebody out to a zone that you haven't discovered yet, which will instantly discover it, but the majority of the points in the game, you will just get naturally by completing missions and automatically unlocking them. So I wouldn't go out of your way to just take a long-ass ride with somebody for the sake of getting a path that you're gonna get anyways once you get to that mission. Five, level 3 armor is better than 3A, but level 3A plus is the best at the beginning here. When you mouse over the armor, you'll also see in the top left corner what it protects, being the front, back, and sides. Not all of them protect everything, and may be why when you start running away from AI and get one-tapped, you don't have back protection on. Leveling up Handshake will let you buy better armor, and some of the tasks that you do will have multiple people you can turn it into if you want to focus on getting armor first, for example. Make sure you turn in the quest with him. 6, when you log off, it's good to put anything that you really want to keep in your stash. This would avoid the scenario of, say, logging into a server that is being raided and you're instantly killed off and lose your favorite voodoo optic. Everything in your stash is safe, but if it's on your body, it is at risk even if the game crashes. That's happened to me when I was on a flight path out into the world, game crashed, and I lost everything on my character. Maybe save some of that better stuff until you know what you're doing a little better. But I would also say in this game, there's not too much gear fear because it is so easy to just buy everything that you need from the vendors. And cash is very abundant. As you do all the quests, you get a ton of it to buy with. 7, buying from traders will level them up, but selling does not. You can also only sell specific items to specific vendors, but the more cash that you can get and then just funnel into somebody, especially if you're close to leveling them up, that'll unlock new things to buy with them. Could be worth it to spend some of that cash or just holding for nothing right now. 8, factions don't matter right now, but you do need to be on the same one as your friends to play together. I'm sure you saw that when you were logging in. They did announce on Twitter, though, that they are adding a way to fully wipe your character and choose a new faction, but obviously you're going to lose absolutely everything that you have, which of course you will lose eventually when they wipe the game as well, but reiterating the importance of this point. 9, PvE and PvP modes can be switched between freely. When you have your character, you can take them into any server, East Coast, West Coast, as well as PvE and P. That means if you just want to level up and don't want to worry about teammates accidentally killing you or enemies coming after you, go into the joint ops mode. And what was even cooler I didn't realize is that this isn't just your own individual PvE world. You are still playing with other people, queues you in with other people in your faction. So you'll still run into them, can use proximity chat, team up with them and work together. I was very impressed with this. You didn't even have to spend $250. I will say though, the PvP aspect can be very fun and it adds another layer of pressure as you're going in and doing those missions that I find to be extremely exciting. Although I will also say that it doesn't really matter when you PvP. You can't really get anything great from the people that you kill. There's no extra XP or missions to do it. So really, you're just slowing yourself down from leveling up your traders with the risk of losing absolutely everything. So I wouldn't recommend PvPing. 10. Searching boxes takes time for that loot to appear. At the beginning, I'd go up to a box and just not see anything there, move on. You got to sit there, wait a couple seconds, and see what pops up. 11. It takes about 15 minutes for AI to respawn in an area, and it also depends on how many people are in that server. They also can spawn right on top of you and behind you, so if you're walking through a town that's recently been wiped, be on your toes because it might all spawn back on you. 12. You can revive your downed friends, or if you see a faction member on the ground coughing and seemingly bleeding out, that's because they're in a coma. Head over with the serve kit, which if is in your safe pouch, needs to be moved into your tack rig, belt. Then you'll be able to operate on them after you examine. Once the serve kit has been used, they'll stand back up. They can then fix their own bleeding and supply blood, or you can even help them with it. Because the other big tip here is healing a buddy is faster than healing yourself. 13, choppers stay on the ground, but once the player who calls it in gets on, it'll leave after a few seconds. So if you're with a bunch of buddies, try to be the last person who gets on, if you were the one that called it in, as to not leave your teammates behind. This happened to us more than I'd like to admit. 14, are you looking for extra cash? Well, try and take off the optics on the gun that you find. You could put them on your bag's extra slot or inside of your bag if it's big enough in order to do this, because the value of those are relatively high. In this type of game, you're looking for the highest value per cell. Those optics are only one cell and are often worth $100 each, versus bringing the entire gun, which might be worth $300, but now you're taking up 8 to maybe even 10 cells, which would then be a $30 per cell value, while also being much heavier to carry, slowing down your stamina, making it longer to run. It's a very efficient way to get some extra cash if you're after it. Most of the stuff that you find on the ground, like ammo or food, it's really not worth much, and bringing it back in hordes to try and sell it. Just try and take whatever you're going to need for your run, maybe the next one, and if a couple buddies could use some food. 15. What is worth picking up are the keys, especially if you don't have it yet. Better yet, keep a key ring inside your secure stash, so any of the keys that you find, which will likely go into that secure pouch anyways, are now better maximized, and you could still keep other things there. And if you get some extra keys of the same one, bring it on back and drop to somebody back at base who might need it. 16. Speaking of your secure case, keep an M-FAK or even 2 in your safe pouch. They're only one cell, but they give you 2 cells worth of space. It can only be used on a medical item, but it's a really good place to keep a survival kit or even some extra blood. And then every time you die, you don't need to constantly keep on buying more medicine, because you're probably going to want that every time you go on a run. 17. Press V before you go into battle. That'll check your magazine. You need to see how much ammo you have in there. You do not want to go into a fight and hear that click of an empty magazine of an empty gun. After any fight you get into, just like you get in the habit of reloading in a Call of Duty immediately after a fight, get in the habit of finding a spot where you can then just repack your mags. It happens instantly, and it is so important to not die. 18. Along those same lines, ammo is fairly cheap, so keep a good amount of it, at least 2, if not 3 stacks, especially if you're going to be using your gun fully automatic, preferably in your tack vest or at the top of your bag, so you can quickly drag it into your magazines without having to go all the way to your safe pouch. It's fairly cheap, so it's not usually worth it to keep it there. With that, I'd also say bring at least 3 magazines so you can still get those quick reloads done without having to constantly pack your mags. But bringing tons of mags is just as much management and will save you some cash just having the raw ammunition. 19. At the very start of the game, Gunny will sell you an ACOG. You can put that on. You just need to figure out how the mounting system works. In order to put an optic on a gun, you need to have the proper mount or attachment for it. Fortunately, he also sells the attachment to mount it to your gun. You can also take the handle off of your M4 to bring that optic lower. There is a ton of gun customization, and depending on where you start, what is offered to you, spend a little time to go through the vendor and your weapon to figure it out so you can get those long-range optics. In this game, you should turn your field of view up so you have a wider peripheral view. Lets you spot an enemy if they're just off to the side of you, but it does make it so you effectively have less zoom in on your holographic sight or red dot, which makes it look super tiny and hard to see. So having a higher powered optic becomes very helpful, especially with how tiny and hard to see things are from far where you're going to have the biggest advantages. And 20, you should put smaller bags inside of bigger bags. This is the only way that you can stack them, but it's very efficient if you do need to grab somebody else's bag, if you've got a big patrol one, or you can maximize your own storage space and your limited stash size by putting a gigantic bag inside of another one. Opens up a ton of cells. One other note here, if you do have a dead buddy, it could be good to take all the gear off of their body and drop it next to their body, not under it, just in case they do make it back safely. But if they die again, their body will completely despawn. So will yours. And all of the loot that is on there will disappear unless it's on the ground. Same thing if you're crashing from a server, drop it all on the ground because it will stay there if it's just on the ground. It won't if you die or despawn again. And one last bonus tip for you all as well, be patient. If you're getting bored with the game, go play something else. This is still such early access that they're going to need more time to finish it and polish it and make this a more robust, fun experience. You can come back at any point in the future if you've already bought the game, especially. The missions, for the most part, early on are the same as what you're going to experience later on in the game. It's just going to take you further. You're going to have longer helicopter rides to get there. Find the body, find some documents, plant some stuff, kill a boss. But there's also not much incentive to do any of the PvP, which I think is where a lot of the excitement comes from, and I think they're going to continue to develop this out. At least I really hope so. But once they tweak more of the features in the game, they add more to the economy, the rewards for the actions that you're taking, playing with friends, I think a lot of the game is going to get a lot more fun and enjoyable. I did the same thing with Tarkov. It took me a long time to get into the game, and I'm glad that I did because then I had so much more to do once I started playing the game. And likewise, after they wipe and then reset everything, all your stuff's going to reset anyways. You can come back months, years later, and then there's tons of new content to explore and play. They said they want to do a big update every 6 months to the game from what I saw. We'll see the cadence that they actually deliver on, and I hope it's solid. It's got so much promise for this game and such a great base for it, but don't get completely burnt out on it in its early state. If you guys have any other tips, you've been playing the game, you've seen any other great stuff, let us know in the comments. Give a like to any of those great, helpful comments, as well as even the video if this helped you out. I got more content playing through the game and enjoying it with the boys over my Stone Mountain Beyond channel as well. But that's it for this one. Thanks so much for watching.